The sun hung low over the alien world, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. The air was thin but clean, carrying a faint smell of minerals and rain. In the distance, a lake stretched quietly across the horizon. Its surface was smooth like glass, reflecting the strange twin moons above. This was the Forbidden Lake, a place every traveler knew to avoid. Stories told that the lake could sense those who were not ready, and that it had powers no one could explain. Many species had come close, but none had ever touched it. A young human named Lyria walked toward the lake. She was small compared to her alien companions, but her eyes held curiosity that no one else could match. Humans were unusual on this planet. They were not the strongest or the fastest, but they had something else, a kind of stubborn courage and a mind that could think in unexpected ways. Her team had studied the lake from afar, recording its beauty and its silence. But something inside Lyria pushed her forward. She wanted to see it for herself. She wanted to feel it. The ground beneath her boots was soft and cold. Strange plants grew along the edges of the lake, glowing faintly in the dim light. She knelt by the water, careful not to make a sound. The lake seemed alive, but not in a way she could understand. It did not move, it did not ripple, yet it felt aware. Lyria reached out with her hand. The water shimmered under her fingers like it was testing her. She held her breath. Nothing happened. Then, slowly, a calm voice filled her mind. It was not loud or scary. It was gentle, old, and wise. "You are here," the voice said. "You are not like the others." Lyrira's heart skipped a beat. She looked around, but the lake was empty. No one else was nearby. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The voice did not answer with words. It spoke directly into her thoughts, and she understood without hearing. "I am the lake. I watch and I remember. I see worlds far beyond this one. You carry something rare, human?" Lyria felt a shiver run down her spine. She had never felt anything like this. Other species might have tried to touch the lake before, seeking power or knowledge, but the lake had ignored them. It had never spoken. Now it was speaking to her. She did not feel fear. She felt a strange calm, as if the lake was not a danger but a friend, waiting for someone who could listen. The voice showed her a vision. She saw 3 worlds spinning in space like jewels. Each world was alive, full of cities, forests, oceans, and skies. But something was wrong. The people on these worlds were struggling. They were smart and strong, but they were losing something important. They had grown proud and alone. They fought without understanding and ignored what was right. Their worlds were not dying from enemies, but from choices that no one seemed to notice. "You are human," the voice said. "And humans have a gift. You can choose differently. You can feel what others ignore. You can carry hope where others see only power." Lyria felt the weight of the words, but she did not shrink from them. She thought of her own world, small and fragile, yet full of people who helped each other in times of need. She thought of the mistakes humans had made too and how they had learned and grown. Maybe that was why the lake had chosen her. Not for strength, not for speed, not for weapons, but for a mind that could think with both courage and care. "Will you listen?" the voice asked. "Will you carry what others cannot?" Lyria did not answer immediately. She felt the silence of the lake around her, the quiet watching of stars reflected in the water. She felt the calm patience of the ancient voice, waiting for a human to understand. Slowly she nodded, not for the lake but for herself. She would try. She would see if she could do what the voice asked, even if she did not yet know how. The surface of the lake glowed faintly. Tiny ripples spread outward from where her fingers had touched it. She stepped back, amazed. Nothing had attacked her. Nothing had tried to stop her. Instead, she had been chosen, or at least noticed, by something far older and wiser than anything she had known. She felt both small and important at the same time. Small because the worlds she had seen were so huge, and important because the lake had trusted her enough to speak. Lyria stayed by the lake until the light of the twin moons shone brighter in the sky. The other explorers had returned to their camp, but she lingered. She wanted to understand. She wanted to feel what the lake had shown her. She knew this was only the beginning. Something had awakened, something that humans alone could carry. And though she was not yet sure what lay ahead, she felt ready to meet it. The Forbidden Lake was silent again. But Lyria knew it would never be the same for her. She had touched it, and it had touched her in return. And somewhere deep inside, she felt that the fate of many worlds had just begun to rest, quietly, in human hands. Lyria sat quietly by the edge of the lake, her fingers still brushing the water. The twin moons reflected on the surface, making it shine like silver. She felt a strange warmth spread through her chest. The lake had spoken to her, but now, the voice returned, calmer this time, as if it had been waiting for her to settle. "You are ready to listen," the voice said, not aloud but inside her mind. "Few have ever been ready." Lyria swallowed hard. Her heart beat quickly, but her mind was clear. "Who are you?" she whispered. "What are you?" "I am older than stars," the voice answered. "I have seen worlds born and die. I watch life and choice. And I watch you, human. You are different from those who seek only power or knowledge. You seek understanding. That is rare." Lyria felt a shiver. She had studied many worlds, known many species, but she had never thought she could be seen as special. She had always felt small, just one human among millions, small in the universe. And yet here, the lake spoke to her as if she mattered. "You carry a gift," the voice continued. "A gift of choice. You can see what others cannot. You can feel what others ignore. You can act with hope when others act with fear." Lyria looked at the water. The surface rippled slightly, though no wind stirred. "A gift?" she asked. "What do you mean?" The lake sent images into her mind. She saw 3 worlds spinning far away in space. Each world was different. One was covered in forests and rivers, with cities shining in the sunlight. Another was mostly deserts and mountains, with small settlements scattered across its surface. The 3rd world had oceans everywhere, with islands and floating cities. But all 3 worlds had something in common. The people on them were struggling. They had tools, machines, and knowledge beyond her imagination, yet they were lost. They fought not with swords or guns, but with pride, fear, and selfishness. "They are strong," the voice said. "They are clever. But they cannot see what is true. They cannot feel what is needed. You can. Humans are small, yet you hold a balance others lack. You carry the ability to choose rightly when others cannot." Lyrira's chest tightened. She had never thought of humans as powerful. On her own planet, humans were often messy, sometimes cruel, sometimes afraid. But they could also be kind, brave, and full of ideas. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her, about humans helping each other in times of great need, even when it was hard. Maybe that was why the lake had chosen her. "How can I help?" she asked softly. "I am just one person. I cannot save worlds alone." "You are not meant to save them alone," the voice said. "No single being can. You are a bridge. You carry understanding. You carry hope. You can guide, you can teach, you can show others what they have forgotten. But you must listen. You must feel what is real. You must not seek control, only balance." Lyria closed her eyes. She felt the weight of the words. It was a heavy task, heavier than any mountain, yet it did not feel frightening. It felt possible. She could try. She could learn. She could do what no one else had been able to do. The lake shifted slightly, and for the first time, it seemed to move toward her, as if acknowledging her decision. "Will you accept?" the voice asked. "Yes," she whispered. "I will try. I will listen. I will learn." "Then you are ready," the voice said. "You carry not just yourself but the potential for balance. Many worlds watch, many lives depend, and yet no one can force you. You must act with thought and care. You must choose wisely." Images of the 3 worlds returned. She saw their people struggling, confused, sometimes angry, sometimes afraid. She saw cities that shone but were empty of hope, forests dying despite water, oceans full of machines but not life. It was sad and yet beautiful in its own way. She understood that these worlds had possibilities, and humans could help them see those possibilities. "You will not be alone," the voice said. "I am here. I will guide you. But the choice is yours. The way is yours. No other species can do what you can, human. You are the first who can." Lyria felt tears in her eyes. She had come to study the lake, to explore the unknown, and instead she had been given a task larger than she had ever imagined. She was not a hero yet. She was not a ruler or a warrior. She was only herself, a human, small but brave enough to listen. She looked at the lake again. Its surface was still and clear, reflecting the twin moons. She could feel its wisdom, its patience, its quiet strength. She could feel herself changing. She was no longer just a visitor. She was part of something far greater. "I will do my best," she said aloud, though the voice had already heard her. She did not need to say more. The lake had chosen her because she could choose what was right, not because she wanted power. As she stood up, the air around the lake seemed warmer, as if the world itself had noticed her decision. The plants glowed softly, and the water shimmered like silver under the moons. Lyria knew she would return to the camp soon, but she also knew that she could never be the same again. The lake had spoken and she had listened. She had felt something no one else had. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would reach far beyond her world. For the first time she felt a calm certainty. She could carry hope. She could carry balance. She could carry the potential of 3 worlds in her hands, not as a ruler, but as a human who understood that sometimes the smallest choice could change everything. Lyria returned to her camp quietly, her mind still full of the lake's voice. The twin moons hung high in the sky, and the alien landscape was calm, but she felt something change deep inside her. She was no longer just a visitor. She was connected to the lake and through it to faraway worlds she had never seen before. The visions of the 3 worlds stayed in her mind, and she knew that their people, their cities, their forests and oceans were somehow waiting for her. The other explorers were talking, excited about their data and their findings. But Lyria could barely hear them. She felt a strange energy, not dangerous but alive. Something had awakened across the universe, something that responded to her presence. She closed her eyes and focused. She could sense faint echoes, like whispers, from the 3 worlds. The lake had given her a link, and through it she could feel emotions, needs and thoughts from faraway people. The first world was filled with forests and shining cities. She could see its people working and living, but something was wrong. They had machines and tools, but their eyes were tired. They worked hard but without joy, without understanding why they did what they did. They argued over small things, forgetting the bigger picture. Lyria felt their confusion and their fear, but she also felt hope hiding underneath. A human mind could recognize that hope and build on it. The second world was mostly deserts and mountains. Its people were clever and strong, but they were lonely. They had learned to survive but not to live together. They kept their knowledge locked away, afraid to share. They had potential, but they had forgotten how to trust each other. Lyria felt their caution and their pride. She understood that it would take patience to help them see differently, but she also knew it was possible. Humans could find a way where others failed. The third world was covered by oceans with floating cities and islands. Its people were advanced, with machines everywhere. But their hearts were heavy. They thought knowledge and technology could fix everything, but they had forgotten that life is more than machines. They did not listen to each other, and they did not listen to themselves. Lyria felt their frustration, their longing, and their silence. She knew that even the smartest civilizations could fail without understanding, and humans had a chance to help them. Lyria realized that the lake had not just chosen her to touch the water. It had chosen her because humans were different. Humans did not always take the easy path. Humans could feel, choose, and change. That was what made them powerful in a way other species could not understand. The lake had shown her not to lead with strength, not to command, but to connect. She had to help the 3 worlds see what they had forgotten. But she was only one human. How could she help entire worlds? The thought made her stomach tighten. She was small, fragile, and alone. Yet, the lake's voice had already told her she did not need to be alone. She had the gift of seeing clearly, of thinking carefully, and of feeling hope. That was enough to start. That was enough to make a difference. 4 days Lyria practiced listening. She sat quietly by the camp, touching the air, touching her mind, trying to reach the world she had seen. She began to hear the faintest signals, like tiny pulses of emotion and thought. She could sense joy, fear, hope, and doubt. She learned to organize the feelings, to understand patterns, and to see what each world needed. Other explorers thought she was meditating or lost in her own thoughts, but Lyria was learning something no machine could teach. She was learning to connect. One morning she stood at the lake again. The surface was still and perfect, reflecting the skies. She stretched her hands over it and closed her eyes. The lake responded, shimmering under her palms. She could feel all 3 worlds watching, waiting. Their people did not know it, but they had a guide now, a human who could carry understanding where no one else could. Lyria smiled. She was not a ruler. She was not a warrior. She was not a hero, at least not in the way anyone would notice. She was a listener, a thinker, a connector. And that was more important. The lake had trusted her, and through that trust she could begin to help the 3 worlds find balance. The first signals she focused on were small. A misunderstanding between 2 cities on the forest world. A shortage of shared resources on the desert world. A lonely child on the ocean world who had an idea but no way to share it. Each small signal felt weak on its own, but together they formed a map. Lyria could see patterns, connections, and solutions. She could begin to guide the people without taking control. She could show them that choice and understanding were stronger than force and fear. She stayed until the moons were high, listening to the faint heartbeat of the 3 worlds. The lake reflected their light, and she felt a strange calm. She could do this. She could help. She could carry hope where others had given up. She was human, and that was why she could succeed. When she finally returned to her camp, she spoke to the other explorers, but they only heard words. She had learned to hear the silence, to feel the world, and to understand what no one else could. The lake had opened a door and she had stepped through. The three worlds were watching and she was ready to answer, not with force, but with the quiet strength of a human who had been chosen to carry the fate of worlds. Lyria looked at the horizon where the lake reflected the moons and whispered, "I understand now. I will help. I will listen. I will try." And in that moment she knew that humans, small as they were, could carry hope farther than anyone had imagined. Lyria felt the weight of what she carried as she returned to the lake again. The air was still and the twin moons shimmered on the water's surface. She had learned to feel the three worlds, to understand their people's struggles, and to hear their quiet hopes. But now something new was happening. The worlds were aware. They did not see her, but they felt her presence. They felt the lake's influence through her. Their leaders, their thinkers, and their people began to act differently even without knowing why. Messages arrived from distant cities on the forest world. Leaders who had been stubborn started to listen to their neighbors. Ideas flowed where before there had been silence. On the desert world, strangers shared resources and knowledge they had hoarded for years. On the ocean world, young inventors began to collaborate across islands, solving small problems together. Lyria sensed all of this. The lake had given her more than a vision, it had given her a bridge. Through her, humans could guide without commanding, help without controlling. And yet she was not a leader. She had no armies, no power, no authority. She was a single human, small and fragile. The leaders of the three worlds would expect orders, commands, demonstrations of strength. Many would doubt her. Some might even laugh. But the lake had taught her something important. Strength was not shown by force. True power came from choice, from understanding, from knowing when to guide and when to listen. The first leader arrived on the forest world. She did not meet them in person, but through her mind she sensed the presence of someone powerful, someone who expected respect. Normally humans would have bowed or begged. But Lyria remained calm. She did not feel the need to impress or threaten. She only listened. And listening changed everything. "You are human," the forest world leader thought. "But why should I trust you? You are small. You are alone. You are insignificant." Lyria replied with her mind, not with words, "I am not here to be trusted. I am here to help you see what you have forgotten. The choice is yours." The leader hesitated. This was not the response he expected. Usually, beings who came with knowledge demanded obedience or respect. Lyria gave neither. She gave understanding. Slowly, the leader began to see the truth in her thoughts. Humans did not lead by force. They led by example, by thought, by care. On the desert world, the pattern repeated. The leaders who had guarded knowledge and resources began to open their minds. Lyria felt their pride and fear, but she also felt hope. She did not speak to them. She only showed that it was possible to act differently. In doing so, they started to make small choices they had never considered. They shared, they listened, they planned together. On the ocean world, the challenge was greater. The people were clever, but their cleverness had made them blind. Machines and inventions had replaced cooperation. Lyria felt their doubt and frustration. Yet even here she saw tiny sparks of change. A young inventor had an idea to connect islands in a new way. Another had an idea to teach children without machines. Through Lyria, the lake allowed these sparks to grow. Humans could teach them to see not only what was possible but what was right. Lyria realized something important. She did not have to control the worlds. She did not have to command armies or rule governments. She only had to show that choice mattered, that understanding mattered, that hope mattered. And in doing so, she carried the weight of the lake's trust, not as a ruler, but as a human who could listen and act with care. The lake shimmered beneath her fingers. She could feel the pulse of the three worlds responding. Slowly, deliberately they were changing. The lake's voice whispered, "You see now, human? You carry no weapons, yet you carry what matters most. Balance is stronger than force. Hope is stronger than fear. You are the first who can show this to three worlds at once." Lyria felt tears in her eyes. She had imagined power as something physical, something she could hold. But this was different. This was quiet, subtle, and far-reaching. Her strength was not in herself alone. Her strength was in her ability to connect, to teach, and to guide without demanding. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where the lake reflected the twin moons. The worlds were watching. They were learning. And though they did not know it, they were following a human's quiet example. She felt small, but she felt capable. She felt fragile, but she felt strong. The lake had chosen wisely. Lyria whispered to herself, "I am not a leader. I'm not a hero. I'm only me. And if I can do this, maybe others can too. The lake rippled gently under her hands as if agreeing. For the first time, the three worlds were moving together not because of commands or fear, but because someone had shown them the way. Someone human. Someone small. Someone who chose care over control. And in that quiet moment, Lyria understood the truth. Humans were capable of things no other species could achieve. They could carry hope where others could not. They could carry understanding where others saw only power. They could carry the fate of worlds not by conquering but by listening, guiding, and showing that the smallest choices could change everything. The lake shimmered one last time that night. The worlds continued to shift, slowly, carefully, but they were shifting. And Lyria smiled, knowing that her choice, the choice no one expected, had begun something that could never be undone. Lyria stood at the edge of the forbidden lake one last time. The twin moons reflected perfectly on its surface, and the air was calm. She had spent days listening, learning, and guiding the three worlds, and now she felt a quiet peace. The lake had done what it always did. It had watched, judged, and chosen. And it had chosen her, a human, to carry a responsibility far greater than anyone else. The three worlds were changing. Slowly, carefully, but undeniably. On the forest world, the cities and villages began to cooperate in new ways. Leaders who had once argued over minor differences now shared knowledge and resources. People began to work together to solve problems, not for rewards or power, but because they had learned that listening and understanding mattered more than pride. The forests grew healthier as they used water wisely, and animals and humans began to live in balance. On the desert world, the people who had been proud and secretive started to open their minds. They shared technology and wisdom they had kept hidden for centuries. Small communities connected with each other, creating networks of support that had been impossible before. Even in the harsh desert, they found hope and joy. Lyria could feel the happiness spreading like a quiet wave. The world had learned to value care over control and patience over pride. The ocean world had been the hardest to reach. Its people had relied so much on machines and invention that they had forgotten to cooperate. But little by little they started to listen. Children began to share their ideas with elders. Inventors worked together to solve problems across islands. Machines no longer replaced understanding, they supported it. The oceans, once full of silence and frustration, now carried laughter, ideas, and cooperation. Lyria felt a gentle warmth in her chest. Even the most advanced worlds could change if they were guided in the right way. Lyria understood now what the lake had meant. She had not been chosen to rule or to control. She had been chosen to show what humans could do, to carry understanding, hope, and care where others could not. Humans were small in the universe, fragile in many ways, yet capable of something unique. They could guide without force, inspire without command, and change the fate of worlds through thought and choice alone. She thought of her own people back on Earth. Humans had made mistakes, yes. They had fought and hurt each other. But they had also created beauty, hope, and courage. The lake had recognized that. Humans did not need to dominate to have impact. They needed only to act with care, curiosity, and understanding. That was why she had been chosen. That was why the three worlds were listening. Lyria smiled as she looked at the lake. Its surface was calm again, but she could feel its quiet power beneath. It had taught her patience, humility, and courage. It had taught her that leadership was not about being first or strongest. It was about helping others see the truth for themselves. She had done this, and in doing so she had carried the weight of three worlds. The explorers in her camp watched her curiously. They did not understand everything she had experienced, but they could see the change in her. There was a confidence, yes, but also a calmness. She no longer acted out of fear or curiosity alone. She acted with purpose and understanding. She had become something more than a visitor, she had become a guide. In the distance, the three worlds continued their slow transformation. They did not yet know who had helped them, but they felt it. People on the forest world smiled as they shared water and food. Strangers on the desert world spoke openly and learned from one another. Children on the ocean world laughed and played as they shared ideas across islands. And though no one knew it, a human's quiet influence had sparked this change. Lyria knelt by the lake and touched the water one last time. It shimmered beneath her fingers, reflecting the moons. She whispered, "Thank you." The lake did not answer with words. It had nothing more to say. Its task was complete. She had learned, it had trusted, and the worlds had begun to move toward balance. That was all that mattered. As she rose, she realized something important. She would not be remembered as a ruler or a conqueror. She would not have statues or titles. But that did not matter. The lake had shown her that the greatest legacy was not fame or power. It was the quiet influence that changed hearts, minds, and worlds. It was the ability to guide without forcing. It was hope carried by one human, reaching farther than anyone could imagine. Lyria turned away from the lake and walked toward her camp. She knew her journey was not over. The three worlds would face new challenges, new struggles, and new choices. But they had learned something crucial. The future could be shaped by understanding and care. And humans, small and fragile as they were, could show them the way. The lake faded into the night behind her, calm and silent once more. But the change it had begun would not fade. It had chosen wisely, for humans carried something no other species could: the ability to see beyond fear, beyond pride, beyond the desire to control. They could carry hope and balance, and in doing so they could change the fate of worlds. Lyria smiled as she walked. She was only one human, but she had done what no one else could. She had touched the lake, listened to its voice, and chosen the path of care and understanding. And in that quiet, simple choice she had carried the fate of three worlds, not as a ruler, not as a hero, but as a human who believed that even the smallest actions could change everything. And in the soft glow of the twin moons, Lyria knew that humanity's true power was not in strength, speed, or intelligence. It was in their courage to listen, to care, and to carry hope across the universe.